Do you think there's any way for the listener at home to figure out if what they're doing is inner speech or something else if they don't have access to Russell Herbert for 10 hours over Zoom?
Well, I don't think I'm unique, but I do think I'm necessary, or somebody like me is necessary. I think. So I think if you want to find out about your own inner experience, you got to have somebody to talk to about it, because I think most people have their own presuppositions about what's going on. And so, for example, if you have a presupposition that I'm an inner speaker, and I sent you a beeper, and you would turn that on, you would come back and tell me that I was an inner speaker. At every one of those beeps that you got, I was innerly speaking. Because your presuppositions are stronger than your interest in describing your actual experience. So I've got lots of people who come into my study on the first day and say, "Well, I'm an inner speaker, and I was innerly speaking to myself about what I should have for lunch." And I would say, "Well, what were you saying?" And you would say, sort of like Gualtiero we're talking about. Well, I don't remember, but but I was speaking to myself, contemplating to myself about what to have for lunch. And I would say on the first day, "Well, I would like to know what you were saying to yourself. If you're talking to yourself, I'm sort of interested in what words people use and whatever. And I would like to know what words you were using when you were talking to yourself." And then on the second day of sampling, you would come back and you would say, "Well, I was talking to myself about my homework assignment, and it's too much, too much homework to do." And I'd say, "Well, what exactly were you saying?" And you would say, "Well, my professor gives far too much homework." And I would say, "Well, that's a different thing from I have too much homework to do. Which one of those things were you actually thinking about at the time?" And you would say, "Well, I don't remember, because I'd say, well, I would say, I'm interested in words. So whatever words that you were using when you were talking to yourself, I would like to know what they were." And then on the third day, maybe when you came back, you would say, "I've been telling you that I've been talking in words, but now that I'm looking carefully for what words that I'm talking to myself, there aren't really any words." And what I would emphasize from that kind of an interchange is that it's not me trying to twist your arm into there's not any words here. I have been saying all the way along, I want to know what your words were. I'm totally interested in your words. I would like to hear about them. And you would come to say, "Well, now that I think about it, now that I'm trying to be careful about it, there weren't any words."
Yeah. Gualtiero, were you surprised by your 0%, or did you know that? Did you know that you didn't inner speak?
I I knew because about 15 years ago, I read some of Russ's work, and I thought, "What's this unsymbolized thinking? That doesn't make sense. I interspeak all the time." And then I did, like, my own naive version of experience sampling, like, I used some kind of alarm to try to catch my thoughts in the moment, and, I didn't talk to Russ about it. I just did it on my own, but I almost immediately realized that I was having unsymbolized thoughts a lot of times and not inner speech. And so I kind of almost instantaneously became a convert to unsymbolized thinking being an important aspect of thought, which I had not even considered before reading Russ's work. And
Super
when we
interesting.
started the ES with Russ, I did announce, "I don't inner speak, I have unsymbolized thoughts," and he said, "Oh, we'll see about that."
Yeah. Yeah, I can imagine well, let's not get carried away. Let's not label it before we get into it. I remember I had a few experiences like, I think
Hmm.
this is unsymbolized thought. And Russ was like, ignore that. Just throw that in the bin. Ignore it. You didn't say that. Get rid of your presuppositions.
So this is a good example, because the this chart shows that Gualtiero really doesn't have unsymbolized thinking, but this chart shows that he's got a lot of thinking, which he might very well consider unsymbolized thinking, and deservedly so. I don't have a patent on the word unsymbolized or whatever. There was some kind of thinking that's going on a lot in Gualtiero that is not verbal. And whether you call that unsymbolized thinking, I don't really know. Don't much even care. That's why I want us to not be dazzled by the label unsymbolized thinking.
Yes.
It's not Gualtiero's experience is not unsymbolized thinking in the center of the target as I usually conceptualize it, because unsymbolized thinking, as I usually conceptualize it, is very specific, and then the content of it is absolutely known to the person, and Gualtiero doesn't do that. Whether that distinction, as we talked about a little bit ago, may even make sense, or whether it's an important one is another deal altogether. But, and here again, it's the size of the quibble. By comparison to Gualtiero is talking to himself in words all the time, doesn't much matter whether we call it unsymbolized thinking or thinking and don't know what's going on.
Right. It is hilarious to me. Again, there's just comment after comment. I speak to myself all the time and continuously. I wouldn't call it an inner monologue, but an inner dialogue. Think about it. You speak to yourself. There is a you and there is a self. That's two. Therefore, it is a dialogue. You are not yourself. You have a self. Philosopher of the year in the comment section, clearly.
People are remarkably confident about their own inner experience.
Remarkably. And it's just that it's so funny because that was almost the primary point in our first conversation. I don't know how many times you said people don't know their inner experience. I think that just went in one ear and completely out the other. Or maybe they were inner monologuing to themselves and they missed that part. But that was another comment that so many people made, was my inner monologue debating if I have an inner monologue. Oh wait, I've just missed 20 minutes of the video. I need to rewind and rewatch it. Another one is my inner voice is never silent unless I am unconscious. It is like having a sportscaster narrating my life from that person. 100% confidence my inner voice is never silent. What do you think the probability is that that's the case?
Well, I would say I would go into it being entirely agnostic about that, because there are some people for whom that's true, and there are other people for whom it's not true, and both of those people are equally confident before sampling. So it's hard for me to tell.
Yes.
I don't.
Is there any?
I don't think most people have a right to be totally confident about anything, probably, but about their own inner experience.
I can't wait for the comments on this video. Is there anything else?
If you really got down to the heart of it, the world is just so much more complicated. People oversimplify it according to their own peculiarities or idiosyncrasies or whatever, and anytime somebody is totally confident about anything, you know that it can't be true in general, because people are way more complicated than they're conceptualizing.
Yeah.
And I think that works for individuals and politicians and whatever. We don't have the. We can try to make some good decisions, but any really smart person is going to recognize that those decisions are really fraught.
Yeah. I think this was another good one, which kind of emphasizes your point. When my son was about 5 or 6 years old, I had a chat with his teacher. She told me he was always living in his head. Instinctively, I defended him, saying, from my own experience, well, everyone lives in their head. She looked at me and simply said, no, that's not the case. I froze for a moment. Her words sank in slowly, like a truth I had never considered before. That was the first time it truly dawned on me, we are not all having the same experience. So this person clearly just had one thing happen in their life where that realization just hit them all at once. Like, how many people, what percentage of the world never have that realization?
So I would say that it is the case that most people, most of the time, actually are in their heads, in the sense that their experience is more about something of their own individual creation, whether it's an inner speaking or a image that they've created, or a unsymbolized thinking, or whatever. There are relatively few people who are just taking in the external world without in some way commenting on it, reflecting on it, thinking about their own thing.
Yeah.
That so I guess the commenter was right about that.
You're going to tear this next one to shreds. Honestly, it sounds like more people just don't know how to experience or describe what's going on in their heads. After the 5 FPs were laid out, I started analyzing anything that was coming into my head as I was listening to the conversation while crocheting. I noticed that sometimes I would see things in imagery while speaking things in words in my mind and then feeling the experience related to the words, all while having everything symbolically represented like you would when dreaming. Or I would stop and notice the texture of the crochet, and so I would imagine what it also felt like, and I would then see the word texture while symbolically imaging and having the feeling. But I am totally capable of analyzing all of this that is happening in my mind because I'm very good at analyzing my own actions and describing them in my mind. My guess is people lack the language of interpreting what exactly they are doing. They might even have a hard time deciphering which of the 5 FPs they are doing. Unless truly there are people that don't do any of this at all, in which case I really cannot comprehend that person. Just a remarkably confident individual that they're doing it very, very well, and really everyone else is an idiot and can't do it.
Yeah. And I would say it's very difficult to do it well, A, by yourself on your own, and B, without a beeper. There's that people give me credit for saying I've got a magic beeper or whatever, but I don't think that's actually true. What I think is true is I've got something that tells you that this is the moment that we're going to be interested in, and I'm going to tell you about it. I'm going to call it to your attention quickly.
Yes.
The beeper is the best way that I've figured out how to do that. But the problem is when you engage in the kind of reflection that your last commenter was talking about, you've got a lot of preparation work that goes on behind the scenes before you say, well, now I'm noticing what the material that I'm crocheting feels like. So you're asking yourself, well, am I paying attention? You don't maybe ask yourself explicitly, but your bag of bones and neurons or whatever aims at the texture of the wool, and then you notice but what you didn't see is the behind the scenes focus in the direction of the wool. And
Yeah, it's just an insane response to the expert doing it 50 years to have the response of, well, probably everyone else is doing it wrong, but I'm actually doing it great. I have perfectly analyzed every experience that has happened in the last hour, and I'm just great at this. And everyone else is an idiot. It's just a hilarious, like, I couldn't imagine having that outrageous level of confidence. I aim in life to have that level of confidence. It's crazy.
I would say that most people that I've, over the years, I've talked about what I do for a long time. Almost everybody thinks they know how to do it better than I do. And that is pretty remarkable because I'm a pretty smart guy and I've been doing it for 50 years. You'd think they give me a little bit of credit.
Yeah, it's crazy. I don't think I do it better than you, if that means anything. I definitely don't.
I would just add that part of what's happening is that it's very easy for people to influence the kind of the character of their thoughts if they set them on to it. If they ask the question, I think a good way to summarize the reaction to that comment is, well, yeah, if you ask yourself, can I do this? Can I do that? Can I focus on this? The answer is, yeah, you can at that moment when you direct your attention that way
Yes.
or direct your thoughts that way. But is that what happens on a normal basis in a spontaneous way without you setting your mind to it, kind of intentionally? And
Yes.
so those are two different things.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what I was trying to say a minute ago. Gualtier did a much better job of it than I did.
Yeah.
The Giant Shoulder mission is to explore radical ideas in biology, neuroscience, and consciousness, and elevate those stories to the highest possible level while keeping them accessible to everyone. If this interests you and you want to support independent science, then please consider subscribing to the Clips channel. Check out our 26 Neuroscience book. You can download it for free